with that. So now we have, okay,
Punishing Jund.
Punishing Jund versus Sultai Shadow. So we were talking about Watery Grave a little bit ago, and Justin Parnell, he looks like he has two of them in his main deck to make his playset of Death Shadow a little bit bigger. His life
Cute.
total a little bit smaller.
Yeah, this should be interesting. You don't see a ton of Death Shadow in Legacy. Much more of a modern staple. But here we go.
Yeah, players talking about this Punishing Jund player having insane cards. He has a Vile Smasher in the main deck as a one of. That's an interesting choice.
Speaking of cards that are good in Modern, sort of. He gets to play with Bloodbraid Elf. Totally legal in Legacy.
Yeah. Do you think that will ever come back in Modern?
Do I think that's ever going to come back in Modern? I think I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
I feel like...
Because I said ever.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that R&D does periodically unban cards in Modern, and I feel like it's 4 mana. It's, quote unquote, just a creature. I think the more expensive cards on the ban list, and Bloodbraid Elf, it's not like you're going to kill people on turn 2 or 3 with a Bloodbraid Elf, right? It is a tremendous amount of value, but I suspect that when R&D wonders about unbanning cards, I'm sure that's on their short list of candidates. I guess I'm not sure, but I strongly suspect that's on their short list.
Okay.
It's not like I don't have any insider information, but
that's fair.
All right, Thoughtseize. There's a Liliana. Is that a Kolaghan's Command?
I'm not sure. It might be. I think that's a Bloodbraid Elf.
Oh, it's a Bloodbraid Elf. My bad. Oh, speaking of.
And speaking of, yeah.
Maelstrom Pulse, obviously. What do you take here?
It really depends. It looks like Justin has a Force of Will in his hand, so you might take the Bloodbraid Elf because that's kind of a bit harder to interact with at this point.
Sure. Goes with Liliana.
Goes with Liliana.
Time no longer frozen.
Yeah, so Justin Parnell, he's playing basically a Death Shadow Delver deck of sorts with the Sultai colors. He has 4 Wasteland, 4 Deathrite, 4 Delver, 4 Death Shadow, and 2 Gurmag Angler as his creature suite.
Oh, Bob off the top. He did show up for Eternal Weekend after all.
People were wondering.
You have to force this? That's a lot of value. If he doesn't have a removal spell, this feels like a game that could go for a while. I don't know. I haven't really got a good look at Justin's hand. Maybe he's just going to go get his life total down to Death Shadow range in a hurry. We'll see. Force of Will does contribute.
It does. Yeah, there's a lot of different cards that we'll see.
More ways to hurt yourself in Legacy than there are in Modern.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yep. Dismember Dark Confidant. Sure, sure.
That's certainly a way to do it.
That's 11. Fetch drops him to 10.
Did he shock himself here? I don't know if he has a shadow right now. Oof.
Yeah, maybe. Shockland looks like untapped. I mean, Dylan did not know what he was up against previously. He's probably got it figured out by now.
Yeah. It's the second Watery Grave that gives it away.
Yeah. Here's Death Shadow.
Yeah, it's sitting pretty at a 5/5 right now.
Dylan gets to play that Bloodbraid, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, he has the third land and ability to activate with Shaman. Justin really can. It only really looked like he could interact with one of them, so I imagine at this point he's going to, if it's something reasonable is cascaded into, he can block the Bloodbraid with the Shadow at this point.
I mean, Dylan also has Maelstrom Pulse, so he can kill the Death Shadow that way.
True.
I think I might Bloodbraid. No, he's going to go for the Maelstrom Pulse.
Get rid of that force.
Yeah, runs it into Force of Will. Death Shadow grows a little bigger. Oh, did he not have a land? Dylan skipped his land drop, right? I thought he had the
Did he?
4th land.
I thought he did too.
I like Maelstrom Pulse a lot better than than nothing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he didn't have the 4 mana for the Blood Raid, then fair enough.
Yeah, it really looked like he had another dual land in hand, so that's surprising.
Delver and a Deathrite Shaman. Sultai deck looking like the better Deathrite Shaman deck so far.
Yeah. Dylan, I guess I was wrong about that land because he's trying to figure out what exactly he wants to do in this situation now that he's down to just the 1 land in the death rate.
I mean, he can survive 1 attack probably. Does he have to chump Deathrite Shadow yet? I mean, he's got 1 Lightning Bolt in his hand. He's got a Deathrite Shaman, and his opponent's on 7. Right, that's 5-ish already.
Yeah. Delver flips. I mean, you have to wait on the lightning bolt, so that'll be 6.
Yeah, he really needs the land. All right,
so
he's
you
going to
hit
go
the
for the
shaman.
Lightning Bolt on a creature.
That makes sense.
I don't know how this leads to a victory, though.
Yeah, especially not with a flipped force of will like that. To flip the Delver.
I guess dealing 7 is actually really hard. Well, he would take. If he'd activated Deathrite there, he could be activating Deathrite, top decking the land for the Lightning Bolt. Anyway, really tough to check. The Wasteland was huge.
Yeah,
I think Dylan never got up to that Bloodbraid mana. That was a problem. Wasn't able to sort of, couldn't get a Lightning Bolt Deathrite Shaman kill because he just didn't have the mana to activate the Deathrite a couple of times it would have taken.
Yeah, it
was
took him out
close.
again. Yeah. Well played by Justin there with the.
Yeah, 7 was a nice number to go down to.
Yeah.
It's not 6, although 8 might have been better versus Deathrite Bolt. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, I mean, with the way that his deck is laid out, I mean, it really at 4 is when it's able to tussle in combat with everything except for the Tarmogoyf. The Tarmogoyf is when the Shadow might have to be a little more aggressive, go down to a lower life total, but in that game it didn't show up.
Yeah, I was thinking the Cascade from the Deathrite had a decent chance to kill the Death Shadow.
Yeah.
The Cascade from the Bloodbraid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But
no 4th land. No
4th land.
That doesn't really work.
So looking at the sideboard for Justin, see a few interesting choices. Probably not going to come in this game, but Toxic Deluge as a way of losing life for Death Shadow.
They both have a Deluge in the board.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Jund side of things, I think, is looking at Diabolic Edict and Dreadbore. I mean, that's a couple ways you can kill a Death Shadow. So
There you go.
I don't think you Deluge.
I think Justin. What?
Backlash? Seriously, is that the tap a creature, deal damage equal to its power? Am I thinking of the right card?
I think it is. I'm going to have to check that one.
Hilarious. Yeah, tap a creature. It deals damage equal to its power. 3 mana, but it's basically 3 mana win the game. I guess you bring that in against Landsdax, tap Meryl Age.
That seems really good.
I mean, if it's in your sideboard, you're bringing it in when you think that they're going to have a creature with power equal to their life total.
Yeah.
Well, Deathrite Shaman could fit that bill.
Yeah. The
Meryl Age usually fits that bill.
Yeah, the Shadow will just it'll get big. I mean, once he gets down to 6 life, the backlash is good enough to just take him out of the game there.
That's funny.
Yeah,
This is probably not a choke matchup. Does have a choke in his board too, does Dylan?
Yeah, he is like most Delver decks. He is a blue heavy mana base.
I mean, maybe.
So it's not impossible.
It's just that stuff happens so fast, right? Justin's curve is so low.
Yeah. Yeah, the
choke-
aggressiveness
the
of
choke
Death
may
Shadow.
just be too late.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you have time to mess around with 3 mana enchantments.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything is so cheap. Like I think the most expensive. When it comes to actually paying for some of these spells, the most expensive spell in the deck is 2 mana from the looks of it with Abrupt Decay as a 1-of in the main deck. Everything else is being cast for free or discounted in some way. I mean, really, it would have to be something out of the sideboard that would be super expensive. Maybe Liliana Last Hope. So players kind of drawing up their hands now.
All right, let's go to game 2.
Yeah, looks like we have 7s for both of them. Nope, we do not.
All right, let's go to 6 for both players.
Yeah, we have 7s for neither of them. Okay. Yeah, I mean, when I look over these deck lists, I don't think either of these players are really expecting what they're playing against right now. If you're playing these, I mean, you don't really, as Punishing Jund or vice versa with Sultai Shadow, you don't really expect that. So I'm sure that the Punishing Jund deck is probably going to treat it like a bug Delver deck. But
Right. I mean, the headliners in these decks may not be typical, but it's a lot of the same cards, right? Fundamentally, they're both Deathrite Shaman decks. Right, they're both Deathrite Shaman decks. You see a lot of the normal suspects: Thoughtseize, Lightning Bolt, Abrupt Decay, Hymn to Torah, Kolaghan's Command. These are cards that are in a lot of decks.
Yeah.
Right, and that side, the other side is Ponder, Probe, Daze, Brainstorm, Force of Will, Thoughtseize. These are they're different enough to split out as their own archetypes, I think. But
just with
from a macro level, I mean, they both fall into the Deathrite Shaman family. You get the Force of Will deck on one side and the sort of 2-for-1 deck on the other.
Yeah, kind of like 2 halves of the 4-color Leovold deck.
That's funny, yeah. It's like Leovold had 2 babies and they went their separate ways or something.
And he's not showing up in the Sultai Shadow deck at all, unfortunately. Dylan starting off with a Thoughtseize here. Both players keeping 6.
3 land, a checklist card, a Deathrite Shaman, and a Thoughtseize. What do you think the checklist card's representing?
I would want it to be Mayor of Averbrook, but I think it's Delver Secrets.
Interesting. 3 different 1-drops. 3 different turn 1 plays that Justin could make. We'll see. I mean, he'll still have a choice, whatever happens here. Dylan has to decide which he cares about. Does he want to defend his own hand? Does he have a way to kill a Delver or a Deathrite? Yeah, it takes the Thoughtseize.
Yeah, protecting his own hand.
Gurmag Angler. Decent draw here. Should be online before too long. I mean, it's a grindy matchup, so it comes online for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he has a fetch land. He has the Wasteland at some point, although that's kind of mana neutral. But Dylan having a Tarmogoyf as a threat that he was kind of protecting from that crackback Thoughtseize is going to kind of be thrown off when the Angler does hit play.
The usual turn 1. This feels like Windmill Slam Tarmogoyf, right?
Yeah.
Cleared a path with your Thoughtseize. There were no answers. Rar. Sort of. It's only a 1/2, right? Nobody's cracked a fetch land yet?
Yeah, it's just Thoughtseize, and I don't think lands are going to stick around too quickly this turn or the next.
Can we get that die move just a little north? There we go.
Much better. Both creatures is 1/2s right now.
Funny. But not anymore.
So I can't get a really good look at Dylan's hand, but there is a Liliana in it, which is nowhere near.
Wasteland Go does not grab the underground. I guess there was a fetch land when he looked previously. And Dylan may be trying to build up his slightly more mana-hungry cards in his deck, so not using his Wasteland. Delver doesn't flip. Does attack for 1.
Create a second Delver. Now, I'm not sure if Dylan has the second black source for this Liliana. That would be it.
Yeah, it does now.
Yeah. I don't know.
2 cards left. It's Liliana and
I can't see. I can't see either player's hand. I don't know if Justin has any way of reacting to the Liliana.
I'm pretty sure he's got Grimlock Angler and something.
Yeah.
Liliana of the Veil.
I think it's Misty Rainforest. So yeah, that Liliana is going to be good.
Down goes Delver number 1. Now there's creature in the yard for Tarmogoyf.
Yeah. It's going to get in. That Liliana did its duty for that turn, but probably going to be taken out by an attacker next turn. Unless he fears having the Planeswalker for the Tarmogoyf, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dylan expects it to die, but he figures I trade for a card and some life, and I get it in the graveyard for my Tarmogoyf, so.
Yeah.
It's probably all Lily was going to be able to do here. Watery Grave, untapped. Deathrite Shaman. Even with no Death Shadow, he's setting up. There's a Tarmogoyf on the other side. Aren't you even a little scared?
I mean, maybe a little bit. He might be in Gurmag Angler territory right now. I see quite a few cards in his graveyard, and Deathrite can go after the other graveyard, so maybe he thinks that'll be enough. Maybe he was hoping for Delver to flip as well. But
well, sure, but still just could have gotten an Underground Sea.
Yeah. Always
chose to deal 2 to both players instead of just 2 to his opponent.
I mean, while it is aggressive, at that specific moment, I mean, now he's fetched for another. And, I mean, it still makes Death Shadow exactly live. If he hadn't shocked himself there, he'd be at 13. So
sure.
Death Shadow off the top wouldn't do anything. I don't think you go below 11 without a Death Shadow, though. At least not on purpose.
And here's Gurmag Angler. It's big. 5/5, and it shrinks the Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf only looking at lands in Liliana right now. I probably could see the. I mean, it's fine right now, but the Deathrite could do a little bit of damage at making it even smaller if it comes to it. Although wastelanding here might not be at all the correct play.
Did you just forget to use Deathrite? You did.
Yeah.
Just forgot to use it. Are there no targets? Oh, there's nothing to eat. It only makes mana.
I'm still surprised that he didn't just eat a land, though.
Pays 2 life for the probe. Sees. Hello. Time to read Backlash. Both players having a nice little chuckle.
That's a nice looking Backlash, too. It looks like. There it is.
The chippy art from Invasion. My very first set that I worked on R&D.
That was a great set, too.
I was pretty happy with it. It's crazy. Very relevant, too.
Yeah.
Like Justin's just been damaging himself. Now suddenly he's like, oh, I'm really at 4, aren't I?
Yeah, he's
and
pulling back
he
the
can clear
Delver.
a blocker.
Yeah. Delver was about to go in, but he's like kind of doing the math like, oh, if you just tap my Angler.
You think you still attack with Delver. Interesting. Attacking with Angler as well. Was Backlash tap an untapped creature or tap a creature?
It's tap an untapped creature.
Sorry? Yeah, so Angler no longer a target, interestingly.
Yeah.
Pay 2 for this probe.
Oh,
Yep, sounds right. Paying the mana, not the life.
I mean, that is pretty risky. If the Tarmogoyf connects.
Yeah, you have to chump block it now.
Yeah. You really can't let that guy through.
I think you have to chump block here. He goes to 6. Backlash. He is at functionally 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a block.
Going over Backlash again.
All right. That was, hey, can I read that card in your hand? So,
Yeah,
Deathrite Shaman chump blocks, deals 2 on the way out.
Yeah.
Tarmogoyf eats it. And you got anything else relevant, Dylan? Just a backlash.
Yeah, so Dylan at 4 here, so he can backlash the.
Yeah, he has to, or he's
Yeah.
dead to the Angler.
Exactly.
And that's the last card out of his hand. So Justin takes 5 instead of Dylan. And Tarmogoyf is now lethal. So Delver's going to have to stay back on chump block duty unless Justin has a relevant card in his hand.
Yeah.
And he does not, so ships to turn.
Yeah, it looked like he
Dylan
did
needs a
one of
top
those.
deck.
Abrupt Decay would be really nice here.
Nope.
With such luck.
But Tarmogoyf is now bigger than Gurmag Angler, too. Though Delver can attack. Right, Justin's going to have to rely on Gurmag Angler's ability to chump block Tarmogoyf.
Mm-hmm. Although
Grabs
he
his
has,
fetch land.
yeah, he has a Liliana Last Hope in his hand.
Guess that's willing to go into Lightning Bolt range for.
I guess so. It will shrink the Tarmogoyf. But I don't know if that's exactly the best line. Liliana, tick up, Goyf smaller.
Oh, okay. And now the Goyf is going to have to block the Gurmag Angler
Mm-hmm.
and chump it. So that is quite nice.
Yeah. Puts him at 1. What gets him out of this? Does he have Lightning Bolt?
Lightning Bolt
Yeah.
gets him out of this very effectively. Other than that, nope. Go over the Burn Willows. Ball game.
All game.
Justin Parnell with the Sultai Death Shadow deck. 7-1 now.
7-1. Yeah, that was for a deck that I mean, it has the shell of a your typical Delver deck, but with Death Shadow and a few Shocklands from Ravnica block,